Welcome to another edition of Bulldogs Unleashed. We look at the game from behind the scenes, talking about the club and, of course, rugby league in general, brought to you by Reclaim the Game. And our special guests this week are two of the longest-serving Bulldogs, not just as players, but as coaches and administrators, in Barry Ward and Terry Lamb. Thanks for joining us, fellas.
Cheers, mate. You well?
I'm well. Are you well?
I'm good, Billy.
You ready for a session?
You need a bit of makeup going on there,
Do you
mate.
reckon?
Yeah, for sure.
The older I get, the more I need.
I just thought I'd bring that up straight away.
I think it's a bridge too far, Bar.
Okay,
But,
fine.
we'll soldier on. You right?
Yeah,
Barry? You're right.
fine.
Okay. We'll have a look at the team list firstly, and unchanged. The starting 13. Bench is a little bit different looking. As in terms of the 17, of course, this is subject to change. We've got Josh Reynolds, Corey Waddell, Franklin Pele is back, and Jaden Ockenball. We'll talk about him in a minute because he had a different role in the game last weekend. So that's your 17. Then you got Torpenny, Moran, Oluwapu, Burns and Tanner making up the 23. Early stages of the week, but that's an interesting bench, boys. Firstly, from the perspective of what Josh Reynolds brings to a game when he comes on the field. This has been a really good story, coming back into the Bulldogs fold, earning his place in the squad, and then, well, his energy was there to see in the trials at least.
Oh, absolutely, especially the multicultural day. I wish he could have been on the field then, because these people in the stands would have went off their heads if Joshy got on the field. But listen, he brings energy into the team. That's what he does.
Yeah, he'll be that excited he won't sleep this week. He won't get a wink of sleep. He'll be counting the minutes down to play. He typifies the Bulldogs. You know, it's just a great story to have him back. And me actually I coached him way back when he was playing Matthew Shield when he was a 17-year-old boy, and I'm proud of him coming back to the Bulldogs and fulfilling his dream to finish off here. And I'm sure that his passion and energy this week will help him go a long way to beating the Cowboys.
Well, that's two big words, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of other factors involved in interchange and playing the game, of course, but just those two things, passion and energy, takes you a long way, doesn't it? Especially at certain parts of the game.
Absolutely, especially when you're struggling. Your forwards are, sucking the air in, and just take a few words to say to them. Doesn't matter what you say to them, they'll listen to you, and Josh will have that.
Franklin Pele, big body, because one of the things, even though we've had a consistent side for quite a few weeks, there were a number of players couldn't even start the season, and most of them were forwards. So to have him back really helps.
Yeah, it does. He's a meter eater, and he's a big body, big sized, and he's got a lot of punch, and he bends the line back, which you need, with that great go forward, and then you got blokes like Reed can jump out of dummy half, and then you can really play off the back of that. So we need him because Kicks is doing really well, and Kingy's working hard through the middle and that, but you certainly need them big, powerful players that can bend the line and create opportunities where the halves can push up and the fullback and make a few breaks off the back of that.
Now, we'll talk about the Warriors game in a tick. It was disappointing and frustrating in a lot of ways, but one thing that was great to see, Jaden Ockenball coming off the bench in the middle, and he worked hard. Yeah,
it's about time he got some time from a winger to a second rower.
It's a big move.
Big difference. So he's trained for it. He's put some weight on, and he's gotten stronger. So I think he'll do a good job there.
Now, let's get to that Warriors game. There were controversies in it, which we will deal with in another segment of the show because it has broader implications for the game of rugby league. And Graham Annesley had some really interesting things to say about it this week in his address to the media. But in terms of how the team managed this game, it was close, it was intense. Mount Spart Stadium was pretty hot. The fans were getting behind their team, particularly with some of those controversial calls. Really difficult game to manage, and they just didn't quite get there. And again, the only team in the league, apparently, according to the statisticians, to have not scored in the last 20 minutes of a game. How much does that mean after 4 rounds?
Yeah, well, I've got to be honest, I didn't watch a lot because I was doing some academy stuff on the Sunday, but judging by the scoreline and being over there against the Warriors, I think it was their first official home game after COVID, going back. So big crowd, a big task to go over to beat the Warriors there. But, by all reports, the boys put in really, really well. Forgetting all the controversy surrounding the game, but to be competing over there against them, because I think they're going really good, sitting on 6 points, and they've improved. I think they've improved coming off a really good off season. So the boys, even though they didn't get the result, it's always disappointing not to get the result. But it's good that you can walk away and think, well, we didn't get it, but, we're there or thereabouts and we got some improvement to do, but we can certainly build off this, into this week.
And again, Bar, on paper, I say this thing about not scoring in the last 20 minutes, but they were close to the line. Reid Marnie makes a dive, comes up just short. So there were opportunities in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's all about the crowd. You look at our game here, the crowd brought us home, and West Tigers were coming for us, and they scored a couple of late tries. So the crowd got behind us, and our defence stopped them. But over there in New Zealand, there was no crowd for us. There might have been a sprinkle of Canterbury supporters over there.
Thought I heard a few Bulldogs chants,
but
very faint.
Yeah, I think the crowd got them home over there, and that's important.
And the other interesting factor was, and you don't see this too often, is that in both post-match news conferences, both coaches pointed to Sean Johnson being the difference. You just don't hear that sort of decisive comment from a coach on both sides after a game of rugby league. You do hear it from time to time. And what a career that bloke's had, and what a comeback he's had at a relatively late stage. He admits he's not as quick as he used to be, but it just goes to show X-factor players, providing everyone else does their job, can make the difference.
Yeah, skill. Natural footballer can read a game of football. Through the dummy, went through the hole. So, and that's a controversy itself. So, but he's a good player, deserves it.
But this Bulldogs team is coming together over 4 rounds. They're learning a lot. And they were very much contenders in that game. They've only had the one blowout, and that was in the first round. So, who do you like in this team, Barry? I mean, in a team that's improving all round, who's impressed you so far?
Oh, mate, excuse me. I like Jacob Preston. He's come over. He was on everyone's lips, obviously, through the off season and the pre-season, and really setting some good benchmarks and fitting in really well with the season. First graders that we already had. Everyone was impressed with him, and I think he's got a big engine. He plays long minutes. He's got good leg speed. He plays on an edge. He's creative. He plays like a bit of a second half type thing, so he's got a lot of foot in him. So he's only a young kid now. He's just come out of flag, so turning 22. He's got a huge future. He's a really nice kid too to go with that. So he could possibly be here for 8-10 years and could be a future captain. I think he's got a lot of upside to him, and it'd be really exciting to watch him over the next 5-6 years.
Yeah, one of a number of players who it's just great seeing the improvement in them, regardless of the results of the game. It's nice to see.
So, Baz, do you think he's going to go after 5 or 6 years? Do you? You did that, didn't you?
Well, salary cap does that.
Yet.
Salary cap does that to you. I can't believe we got him off the Roosters.
Right.
They keep everyone, but.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it does happen, mate. Sometimes the cap can push it out. It's difficult. We've lost a lot of blokes, as you know. Roy Azatazi, Nate Miles, and to name a few. Barry Ward I wasn't getting enough to stuff up the cap. Let me tell you about that, Terry.
Well, we'll save that conversation for Dog Days, which will come up. Believe me, Barry will be in the spotlight.
Yeah, no, I like Max King.
Yep.
He's a talker. He's a worker. He can play through injuries as well. I think he's got a little injury right now in his foot or something, and he's a good kid. And he's a leader. So I'd like that of Max King.
Let's look ahead to the Cowboys game. Now, one very important part about this Cowboys game is that our Tasha Gale Cup and Harvey Norman women's teams are going to be playing before the men's teams. I don't think that's happened before, has it, Barry?
First time, mate, that both are playing before the NRL.
And we have a very special guest coming later on the show to talk about that. So we will be doing that in more detail a little later in the program. But we've got the Cowboys. Interesting, 2-2, like the Bulldogs. They have scored 71 and conceded 84. We have scored 72 and conceded 81. Doesn't get much closer than that.
We should win by 2.
Well, whichever way you put it, it's a pretty important game. Even at this early stage of the season, each side will be looking to just get ahead on the ledger at this stage and just build that confidence again.
Well, our team is growing. Our connections aren't as strong as the Cowboys at the moment, and they've got a team that's been together, I would say, for 5 or 6 years.
And had a great season last year.
Absolutely. So it'll be a challenge for us, so we can stand up and give them a little of a touch-up.
Where do we win that game, Baz? Because there is, as Bar said, quite a bit of experience in that Cowboys side now.
Yeah, well, I suppose their danger comes from their outside backs and their halves, but Drinkwater missing. I think we've just got to overpower them with the forwards. I know that people say that all the time, but the more you can dominate in the forwards, the less the backs get hold of it and get creative and get involved in the football. So I think if we can play that power game and go through the middle and take a lot of metres off them, and I think we can get them. The thing with the Cowboys at the moment, I really liked how they played last year, and they were unlucky, to finish off the season like they did. But I just don't think they've jumped out the blocks like they have. They haven't followed on from last year into this year. I'm not sure whether the young kids are sort of struggling to back up for that second year. A couple of people gone on tour and they've come back, and I'm not sure if they're sort of the limited pre-season they've done, but they're sort of not as fluent and playing what we expect the Cowboys to. So hopefully coming down here with a home game down here that we can get the home ground advantage and sort of get out to a great start. We might be able to sort of get on top and put them away.
Chad Townsend has been very good for them, hasn't he, since he's moved there?
His experience has been fantastic. Direction, pushing them around. His kicking game's probably one of the best, I think. And I like the centre. What's his name?
Oh, Val Holmes.
Holmes.
Yeah.
He's incredible. He's got pace. He's got a good feet, and he can kick a ball as well. So he could be a danger.
And in terms of the kicking game, interesting to see what the Bulldogs delivered on the weekend. When it came to set endings, the Warriors kicked mostly grubbers. We went in the air. Now, that may well be for a whole range of reasons, and we have a variety of kickers. Even Hayes Perham actually made a nice kick on the weekend. That was a nice change of play, and it was a different type of kick to what we'd been doing. But you've also got Matty Burton, you've got Kyle Flanagan, and of course Reid can kick from dummy half. Are you guys happy with the way we've managed our kicking game in recent weeks?
Well, Baz probably can't answer the question for a start because he wasn't a kicker. But listen, we've got a lot of kickers in there. We just can't rely on it, keep a bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb. Put it on the ground like they did. You don't know what the ball's going to do. It's going to roll which way or whatever. So when we used to play football in the early days, it was find the ground first.
He's got a short memory. They used to have kicking duels. Remember the old kicking duels?
I remember the kicking duels.
Yeah. Right.
Okay,
that was very popular at one stage.
I never got into one.
Didn't you? Couldn't kick it long enough?
That's correct.
But that's one area they'll have to shut down, is obviously give Chad Townsend as little time as possible to make up his mind and decide what to do. So that'll be an interesting part of the game. So that's the game against the Cowboys coming up. And don't forget those two great matches, Tasha Gale and Harvey Norman women's, will be preceding that game. And we'll have a lot more to say about that a little later in the program. Up next, we'll talk about those controversial calls and what it means for rugby league in general. There's a whole lot of implications from that. You're watching Bulldogs Unleashed with Terry Lamb and Barry Ward.
My name's Andrew Davey. I'm from the Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs and I play in the back row. By Bulldogs not taking on advertising money from betting agencies, it's a very brave step. If you're betting and starting to affect your mood and your relationships around you, it's definitely time to step back and have a look at where you're at with betting and why you do it and reassessing where you go from there. Betting's become a bit of a norm in social groups. I've realised that over the years that it's become a way of socialising with friends. There does need to be a breakdown of the stigma and for us to realise that it can be an addiction, it can be a problem and it can affect your life. I think the relationship that we're starting to build with Reclaim the Game, we can take the right steps into making that not a normal thing. Don't let a bet take you away from the match. Reclaim the game and be gamble aware.
We'll get there as well. Canterbury are turning on a show.
Welcome back to Bulldogs Unleashed, brought to you by Reclaim the Game, and our guests this week are Barry Ward and Terry Lamb. We're talking now about the headlines in rugby league this week. A lot of it revolves around some controversial decisions that actually came, two of them anyway, in the Bulldogs-Warriors game on the weekend. Graham Annesley addressed that. He also addressed the issue of forward passes, which came up more prominently in Manly's game, where they were denied a try that Annesley admitted was actually a bad call. But there was also a couple of very, very controversial forward pass calls in the Warriors-Bulldogs game that didn't have as much impact as the ones that were made on try-scoring opportunities, let's put it that way. But I thought Reid Marnie threw a flat pass in the game that was called for forward, and that was a turnover that led to a whole lot of stuff happening. But let's get on to the more controversial stuff. By the way, Graham Annesley also pointed out 78% of games decided by 12 points or less, which is a record for the NRL after 4 weeks. And he said, well, interestingly, the downside of having a lot of close games is that these controversial calls come more into focus. The fans are looking for reasons why their team lost by 2 points or 4 points or whatever. And I do take that. But one of the other interesting things that Graham said was that on the 2 big calls in our game against the Warriors, the first one, of course, being Viliami Kikau's tackle on Pompey, leading to him losing the ball. Was it a strip or was it a loose carry? The second one was later in the game when Sean Johnson scores that brilliant try, but Reid Marnie is obstructed. Was that a legitimate obstruction or was it just part of the game? As it turned out, of course, the Warriors got the favour in the later call, but not the earlier call. Anyway, so they can't complain. They got the result. They got the win. But Graham Annesley made an interesting comment. He said that in both those calls, it was almost subjective in terms of the referee's decision and the bunker's decision because they were so close. They were 50-50 calls and they could have gone either way to the satisfaction of the officials, which is an interesting sort of loophole in our game, isn't it, when you think about it?
Home team. So the public will get upset if they went the other way. So they go against the team that visits Auckland. So
I mean, it did go both ways. So you could say the 2 controversial calls were 50-50 in the end in terms of which team got the benefit. But it makes it interesting when you get a situation where you literally can't define clearly which way that call should go. Because as Graham was saying, he could understand why the referee could have said, let's go back to the Viliami kick-out tackle firstly. Now, he starts that tackle. For all intents and purposes, it's a legitimate tackle. He's trying to stop him unloading, so he goes high. The arm slipped down. Did he make a decision mid-tackle? Well, I'm not going to be able to hang on to him, so can I just knock the ball out of his hand? I don't know.
That's only something Kicks could tell you. But,
well, and do you do that, or is it just instinctive? I don't know.
Well, players are made or taught to tackle the ball first, so maybe that came into it. But listen, it went against us. Both things went against us, so I'm filthy.
Oh, well, no, the Warriors were denied that try.
Oh, okay.
They were denied that try, but and the Warriors fans were going off their brains about it, and you could understand that. But it was a difficult call because Pompey's arm comes down and the ball sort of gets loose. He twice in that run, he cupped the ball between his wrist and his hand as if he was going to offload.
Yep.
So that makes it very much susceptible to a loose carry call, doesn't it? So it's a really tricky one.
With the bunker and with the frame by frame now, are we finding things that are there that aren't there? Are we putting too much pressure on making decisions in the way of trying to find that minute way of which way is it, 50-50 or call? I'm not sure. That's, are we getting too technical with our rulings?
I'd rather not go to the bunker too many times. It slows the game down. It's going for 2 hours now, a game of football, so where it used to go for 80 minutes.
Well, another thing Graham said was they have managed to cut down the stoppages, but the problem is when you become analytical, and we'll get to forward passes in a minute, but you are creating more stoppages in the game, so you're sort of self-defeating, isn't it?
Yep, I've probably seen 2 or 3 instances this year where people have scored tries where they weren't tries, but when you put that frame by frame and you see their fingers on the ball and they touch it, but in our day or, it's not a try, that they drop it, it's it's changing. It's changing. The whole game's changing. They're trying to get really technical with it, and it's everyone's got more of opinions on it, and people are buying into it and having a look what's being shown and played, and you're hearing referees talk about it and what they're looking for, and you're gonna have constant pressure of anyone making any mistakes. It's going to be from the fans, from the corporates, from head coaches, from everyone.
The same thing came to the call where Sean Johnson was awarded a try, and a lot of Bulldogs fans, this was a decisive play, and a lot of Bulldogs fans thought they were hard done by. Reid Marnie was clearly blocked by the front row as he went through. The problem there was that he was actually trailing Sean Johnson. He wasn't a decoy runner. He wasn't a lead runner. He was trailing Sean Johnson, looking for the pass. And then when Sean sidestepped and propped, he overran that possibility. And that's when Reid made the collision and Sean ran through. So what Graham Annesley was saying is that he can understand that Reid Marnie was obstructed, but was he going to get there? And point two, because Fanua Blake was actually doing the right thing and just looking to receive the ball, he can't just disappear. He had every right to be where he was. So it's again a really difficult call to make. But Graham Annesley thought that the way they ruled on that was quite logical, but he could understand people thinking the other way.
He would have got there, no doubt about it, but was he going to stop him? We don't know. He could have knocked the ball out of his hand. So there's two situations there.
When I heard Graham's explanation, I must admit I thought, well, if I was Adam Fanua Blake, where do I go? I mean, I'm legitimately there to receive a pass, and the fact that Sean's propped and I've overrun it doesn't mean I then have to somehow get out of Reid's way.
It's a shepherd, isn't it?
Well, is it a shepherd?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, he's probably pushing up, thinking he's going to get a tip off Sean Johnson and get a try into the post, but then Sean Johnson's thrown the dummy and scored himself. So
The footstep.
Yeah, as again, like it's they're right. We're saying 50-50, like how, but you see various different ways of shepherds and calling no tries. Yeah, I know we're talking about this one, but I don't like the one where someone gets impeded 3 in and they score in the corner. Like he's no chance of stopping any type of try from there. But again, someone will just run in and knock someone over. They'll put their hand up and go, "Oh, well, he's impeded the defensive line." Where it doesn't matter if you slide, push up, whatever you do, you're not going to get them.
Well, they did come up with a shoulder rule to try and create a measurement, didn't they?
Yeah,
of
inside
obstruction,
shoulder.
and I understand that, but then there are these other little things in the game. Does it really matter? And if the ref's got a feel for the game, does it matter? It does put a lot, I suppose, on the ref's shoulders, in the sense that they've got to get a feel for what was intended and what could have happened.
They're in the spotlight more now, mate.
It's hard, isn't it?
It's hard. They're in the spotlight, so they've given them a voice in the game, and there's a lot of scrutiny on them these days, and it's a high pressure game of football. There's a lot riding on it, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on them and a lot of controversy.
Most impressive teams so far after 4 rounds. Very close competition. Has anyone stood out for you? They might not be getting the results, but do they look formidable if they stay healthy?
I like the story of the Dolphins. Fantastic. It's great for the game, for the Dolphins and Wayne Bennett, and he's put a side together and a lot of hard work and doing it. They're doing a great job. What they do now with their halfback being injured and the back row is suspended, and so they're going to get a few injuries and a few things like that. But so they're going. I like how they're going. But for mine, the standout of the Broncos. I just think the Broncos are on fire at the moment. They're leading the comp for a reason. They got some great kids in their squad. They're hurting from last year when they got bailed out. They lost 7, 8 games and sort of missed. And I think that's been boiling inside them, and they've come out and they've showed that they're hurting from last year and they want to do better this year.
Yeah, I'm a bit like Baz, Broncos and the Dolphins, but got a soft spot for South Sydney.
Yeah,
I think they're going okay. They're a big team. They've got some very good players. Cody Walker's going very well at the moment. I like Latrell as well. So I think they'll go pretty good as well.
In terms of getting to or getting close to grand finals, Souths have been remarkably consistent, haven't they? They've been considering coaching changes as well in all that. They've been quite remarkable in their consistency.
Well, if you keep the same team, it doesn't really matter about the coach. The coach will just jump in there and give them some ideas how to play and maybe change a little bit how they play. But they're a very good team.
But they lost Adam Reynolds as well to Brisbane. Yeah. That was a smooth transition.
They've still got a good halfback there too.
They do. Yep.
Well, he's good. They haven't had the Adam Reynolds hangover, so the other halfbacks come straight in there. They've kept the nucleus of their side, so they've kept their superstars and. They haven't lost any real big, like I know we're talking about Adam Reynolds, but he's gone, but they haven't lost any, big names as well as along with him. So they've kept their forwards. And probably going back, that's probably why the Dolphins are going good. They've got 3 blokes from Melbourne that, they're tough.
Yep.
They're great players. And, you get great players like them, and they've come out of a great Melbourne system where South haven't lost they haven't had a huge amount of players going. They've lost Reynolds and they've brought the new halfback in, but they've kept everyone else. They got strike across the park. They still have the Rabbits.
Given all that, from what we've seen, this Bulldogs team, there'd be no team at the moment that they could play that they didn't think they could beat. And factor in the enormous amount of change, not only at the coaching level but in the playing ranks too, that this club has gone through. That's a pretty nice place to be, because the only way's up.
Yep.
There's a lot of improvement there, and yet they feel like they're in touch.
Yeah, well, we'll go back to our first game against Manly. I don't think we were ever in that game from a new team. And then we went out next 2 games. I thought, how good's this going? And then we lose last week, and just lose last week. So we just got to hang in there, and the coach has just got to be relaxed, and he is very relaxed, and he's got a good coaching staff around him.
Is confidence a hard thing when you're coming from this club's position, the rebuild and a lot of long-term goals, and the fans are obviously very impatient, but everyone inside knows that we've just got to take it one step at a time. But confidence is something that has to build slowly, surely. It doesn't come easily.
No, well, for me, confidence is you need confidence, but I think the fans are more proud of is when you're really ripping and have a go and you're passionate. The effort, the effort's the big thing. If the fans can walk away, even if you get beat by like last week 16-14, and it's disappointing getting beat. But if the effort's there and they've tried their guts out, they can see how hard the guys are playing. We just got to. It's just patience at the moment. We've got some young kids coming through. We're bringing even younger kids coming through. We've got some guys that are sort of we're working on that sort of rejuvenating their NRL careers. So we've got a bit of a mixed bunch at the moment, and we've got some blokes like a Burton and a Marnie and that coming through on kicks and that. So patience, I think everyone internally here thinks that we're going really, we're going in the right place, but we want a thing called sustainable success. You just don't want to get to the top and then have a crack at the title and then drop away again. You got to build from the bottom, and I think we're doing that, and Gus and the staff are doing a great job where they're adding guys like Kicks and Marnie and that, and then we've got some really good kids coming through. So it's a good mix, and whatever we get out of 23, and as we say, passionate and win more games and push to make the semis, but for 24, 25, 26, we know that the fans out there are going to be very, very excited.
One last question. We talked about expansion on this show last week. We won't go into all that again, but the subject was raised, and it's coming from Queensland, obviously, is that Sydney clubs are selfish, and that at some stage, one of those clubs at least needs to relocate to both facilitate expansion and also take the pressure off the Sydney market. Your thoughts on that? Can you ever see a Sydney club now? Maybe 10 years ago, it's a different conversation. But can you see a Sydney club now ever relocating?
No. Listen, if we want to bring more teams in the competition, why don't we split West Tigers up and West go to Magpies and Balmain go back to Balmain? You
reckon go back to the future?
Yeah, why not? And then St George Illawarra go either way. If they got money, it'd be great, but that's the only way I could do it. Think about it. Instead of bringing 2 brand new teams in the competition.
Yeah, well, for me, I wouldn't touch any Sydney teams. I think we got it there, but we've got 2 Queensland teams now, and we've got North Queensland, right? So 3 really, and I'm thinking if they're looking for one, we've been to Perth, it didn't work. We've been to Adelaide, it didn't work. There's corporate dollar over there, but how many fans have we got to play rugby league? How many people would embrace it? Melbourne done a great job. They done a fantastic job. But for me, if there was another one, I know 2 New Zealand teams, they're a powerful country, a powerful rugby league country. So if anything, I'd be going across there if you did. But I wouldn't be looking at Perth or Adelaide or anything like that. I'd be staying with what we got.
Barry Ward, Terry Lamb, Unleashed will be back after this to take a step back in time in Dog Days. We are the mighty Bulldogs. Welcome back to Unleashed. Thanks to Reclaim the Game, where we have a close look at this club and the game of rugby league from behind the scenes. Our guests are Barry Ward and Terry Lamb. And yes, it's nostalgia time. It's Dog Days. And these guys have spent a lot of dog days over the years, many of them, not only as players, but of course in offices and as coaches too. So we'll start with Barry because he made his first grade debut in 1990. Barry, and then, of course, you had a handful of appearances each year until you left the club for 2 years, which was a really clever move because one of those years we happened to win a premiership. We'll get to that. And then you came back and played with us until 2001, then spent a couple of years at St Helens, and he's been here ever since. Now, tell us about how you got to be a Bulldog in the first place. And this bloke sitting here must have been an inspiration for you back in the day.
Oh, he certainly was. He was my idol.
Is this the last nice thing you're going to say about him in this segment?
Well,
I'm just
be
checking.
honest. We've got to be honest.
Yeah.
We've got to be honest. He was, mate. He was. But he was. He was. But I grew up not far from here at Padstow, local junior. So, and obviously went through the grades and then played Harold Matts when I was, I think I was 15 back then. So that was the first time I pulled the Bulldogs jersey on, and so I went through all the lower grades and come through. So, it was great. It was a dream to play first grade for the Bulldogs, and I was lucky enough to achieve it.
Were you always a big kid? Did you want to be a Terry Lamb, or did you have a prop in mind?
Now, you wouldn't believe this. I was a centre fullback and played junior reps like in the centres and
Right.
fullback. So, and then I got to President's Cup when Robbo was coaching. He goes, mate, you don't stand out there. You get in here now. He said, I don't know what you're doing out there. You lost. So it sort of went from there. So, and then I just get pushed from lock to second row to front row and just kept growing. And then, so that's where it comes. That's
I actually played with Barry's brother Peter. I think Peter was a lot better player than Barry was. And yeah, that's the only reason I like Peter more than Barry.
So he was a bit under the radar when you were sort of looking at the younger
Yeah,
players.
well, you're 10 years younger than us, aren't you, Baz?
Yes.
About 10 years, yeah.
10 years, yeah. I might
Yeah,
have been
so 10 years younger and
I was your ball boy, but taller than you.
that's not right. What are you laughing at?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
What were those years like? You played the one game, I think, in 1990.
Yeah, it was good too.
In top grade, that is. But what were the following years like, and what led to you leaving the club in 94?
Baz wasn't a very good trainer, put it that way.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't awful he was. We used to have chicken and prawn nights once a year to raise money for injured players. And I know Steve Reardon twice in 1 year done his knee and broke his leg. So we had to raise money for him because he had to work and he had no money coming through. There was a couple of players we had to do for that. So we had a chicken and prawn night here at Belmore. And it lasted about 10 years doing the same thing. So we went from a crowd of maybe 200 people to 1,000 our last time we did it. So just to raise money for the young kids.
Because back in those days, people had a regular job.
Everybody had a
Playing,
job,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah. So going back from,
Yeah.
I don't know where he got that from after me.
I thought he was going to allude to your eating habits.
Yeah,
or
that's what I
something,
thought once you
yeah.
mentioned chicken and prawn. But
anyway.
so I was just sort of probably looking back, probably sort of played a few first grade games and maybe thought it was too easy and sort of then went backwards a bit and bumbled and fumbled my way through some reserve grade and that. But the truth was leaving here was more money and I left for more money and it was probably a quite significant amount from what I was getting paid here. But in the end, when you look back, I'm disappointed in myself that I did. Money's not everything and if you're happy, it's not about the money. And we never usually played for the money, but as Bar said, we used to work and that, and it was a fair amount for me at that time of my age.
You went to two different clubs in those 2 years.
Yeah. So I was at Illawarra.
Well,
I was down there. I enjoyed it down there. And then I was I wanted to come back, to get out. But then the Roosters sort of wanted to have me.
The Roosters?
The Roosters.
I didn't know you played for the Roosters.
Yeah. Well,
One day Rooster, next day Feather Duster.
yeah, that's right.
Wow. Yeah.
And then so on that sort of, I just wasn't me. And then I sort of come back and thought I'd just get another opportunity here. And back then too, it was hard to get back in when you left. It was so, but worked hard enough to get back in. And then I was happy ever since. I didn't care what I was getting paid or anything. I was glad to put the jersey back on. I was back home and I really enjoyed it.
Did the fact that the grand final in 94, Premiership in 95, did that have anything to do with it?
Oh, look, you never get upset with the blokes when you're really tight with them and you're mates with them. You never, you shattered for them in 94 and they got beat, but so excited for them in 95. You never get dirty like that because, they're close to you and you always want to wish them the best and get them to win. So it's a shame you're not part of it, but looking back, I wouldn't have been in them sides anyway. So, but I would have been there in the stands cheering them on. But yeah, no, it's probably what I remember that it was so good. I remember having a few beers with them actually after they won the major semi. I think it was 1918, and Chook kicked a field goal, and we had a few beers at Reesby Pub. I'll never forget it on the sort of the weekend they had off, and it was great to be with them and having a beer. And
did you know you were coming back by then, or had that not been?
No, not been discussed or that. But no, it was just great to see the boys that were just enjoying themselves and having a week of building up for a grand final. So no, it was good. I've still got some really good mates that were through that era, so it was great.
So now we build up to 98, 99 and beyond, and Barry was a big part of that. You moved into coaching?
Yeah, I did. Barry Nelson, so Chris Anderson shot through, Folksy jumps in, and we didn't have a reserve grade coach, so they just asked me, do you want to coach reserve grade? And geez, I didn't have to do much. We had a great team in reserve grade. And I had a ball there, but I didn't realise how hard it was in first grade, coaching a first grade team. So, two different much personalities up there, so it's too hard for me.
How long did you go to West Tigers for?
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah, 2000 and 2001.
Right, yep. And
Donald Trump only had one term.
let's get back to late 90s Bulldogs and the build-up again to what was a grand final appearance in 1998. And this, of course, was a really significant time in rugby league. We had this merging of Super League and the ARL, 20 teams. There were 10 finalists, and the Bulldogs finished 9th in 1998. You were coaching reserve grade.
Yeah.
You're playing in first grade, and by this time, of course, an established player in the side. I'll get on to 99 in a minute because I had an interesting conversation with the late Steve Folkes about that when I wrote the book on Hazem El Masri, and he said something interesting to me about 99. But let's go to 98 because that was a Broncos side that was just unbelievably stacked. If you look back, I think at the time none of us realised how many great players were in that side. But let's talk about the Bulldogs and getting to that 98 grand final. There were a couple of amazing comebacks. There was a lot of drama, and you were involved in some of the drama. Tell us about that run in the finals.
Oh, mate, it was amazing, like everyone wrote us off. And we weren't a side full of superstars. We didn't have the Terry Lambs and the Steve Mortimers in our side. And that's no disrespect to anyone, but we were just a hard-working, very tight-knit unit with some gifted footballers. I think Bretty ended up going on tour that year. Pricey was an Origin player, so we didn't have that top 5, top 6 for example, like a Cam Smith or a Latrell Mitchell or something like that. We just had we had some flash players and good players, but we're just so tight. We just had a great team, and Billy Johnson was our trainer, and we trained hard, really hard, and I think that was a huge positive for us in them games in the semis. But we scraped through. Actually, we had to beat Illawarra down at Wynn, and we won on the bell. Or Craig Polamauna kicked a field goal, I think, when it counted, like bar kicks, and when it didn't count. So we won that game.
That's why they changed the rules, 2 points, 40 metres out.
Yeah. I could come back to that one because we got drug tested after that. And I didn't think, and we played at 3 o'clock, and they drug tested me and Bar after that game. I think I know why they drug tested Bar because of the field goal, but for me,
we should explain that for more recent fans. We're digressing here, but I guess we can't. We've got to get down this road briefly.
We have
the
to.
Context of your famous field goal.
Yep.
I'm looking at it. Can I explain it?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the back. If you can see the vision at the back, on the back right corner, John Schuster scored in the corner to take it to 10-all. And Bar come over and we're all huddled in the corner. And he was giving it to us because let the try in. Mm-hmm. And Bar never realised that Johnny Schuster kicked the goal from the sideline. So we went to kick off and, we defended. We got the ball back and about 40 metres out. It was a super goal kick. Got 40 metres out and I can still remember Bar going like that. And we've all looked at him. He goes, what's wrong? He said, I've just won us the game. We said, you got us beat by 1. 12-11.
So the secret was while you were revving up the blokes, Schuster kicks from the sideline, and you just literally didn't see it.
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Didn't hear the crowd. It was a Bulldogs game.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have heard the crowd reaction.
No.
Secondly, in the old days, you've got a scoreboard with, you haven't got the big screen or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just a scoreboard with the numbers being pasted on it. Arguably, the numbers hadn't even gone up.
Well,
If you had a look, they might not have even been up.
I didn't look at the scoreboard. I just ran back. I told them what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We just put a good set of 6 down. We get the ball back in a certain position. We got it in the perfect position. Took it up and had a shot.
Jesus, a good goal kick. Field goal.
Yeah.
But then we got drug tested after it, and we played at 3 o'clock, and neither Bar and I could go to the toilet. So we didn't get back to the club till about 10:30 that night. And we're just sitting downstairs drinking VBs. We're just down there, and
Because we couldn't go to the toilet. Because we were dehydrated and everything,
Hmm.
we just couldn't go. So we just sat down there and kept drinking.
it was the greatest time of my life. I'm sitting there at a bar having drinks, and but going back, sorry to digress. So going back,
We're in 98 now.
98,
And
yeah,
you
so-
didn't make it. You didn't make it all the way because
no, it was
of a bit of
bye-bye Barry
controversy.
after North Sydney. Actually,
Was that the headline in the papers? Bye
yeah,
bye
it
Barry.
was, yeah, it was bye-bye.
So what
Barry.
did you do to get suspended?
Yeah, I raised an elbow of Jason Taylor. It was sort of funny because Folksy sat down and Dean Pay broke his nose the week before against Para, and Folksy just come down and sat next to me before the Norths game and just said, "Mate, I need you to put a bit of heat on JT. He's their key playmaker." And I said, "Yeah, leave it with me, no drama." So they kicked off to us for a set of 6, and then they kicked, and then we sort of, so they got the ball, and then they come. It was only the second set of 6, and they give it to JT to kick downfield, and sort of I was later than the 8-7-3 Buster Bankstown. I was about 5 or 6 seconds late, and sort of just raised my elbow and sort of clipped him, and they put me on report. And then and then I got off the field after the game, and folks, he had this stupid look on his face. He used to just look at you and just roll his eyes, and what do you do that for? And he came in, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean? You told me to get at him." He goes, "Not like that." He said, "You could." Anyway, so
It was his manner, the way he spoke.
it was just, it was really good, and he didn't speak much when he did. But then, on Sunday morning, I went up and bought the paper, and I was just looking at a photo on the back with me, Elbow and JT, and bye Barry, 8 weeks. So,
How does that feel? You're in a series where you got a shot at the Premiership, and you see that in the newspaper. I mean, you must have had a sinking feeling in your guts at that stage, or
yeah, we bought in. Geez, we fought it, and we bought in people that
Solicitors and everybody.
and everyone, and we tried to fight it, but we just human movement people we bought in. We try to dodge everything. So, but we just couldn't possibly get out of it. And then unfortunately for me, I played the Dragons game and then the Norths game, and then it was bye Barry. But I can still claim to say that if I play, we win the grand final. But I don't know if that's true or not. But I'm sticking with it.
It was bye Barry. I had a train going past here says bye Bar. That was my retirement. So got something in common, Bass.
Yeah.
you coached the reserves to the grand final.
Yep.
And of course, you're watching.
Yeah.
Both games, of course.
Listen, I remember at half time we were leading the game.
This is in first grade, yeah.
And
12-10.
You know what? The half time went longer than usual.
Did it?
It was 5 minutes longer.
Okay.
Might have cost us.
Maybe.
Well,
mate, we're in the dressing room and Willie Mason's in the dressing room. I'm outside the dressing room, and Willie just was bagging Brisbane team, just bagging the shit out of him. Allowed to say that? Anyway, I did. Anyway, just bagging him and bagging Willie was, and I went, that's not good. That's not good. You shouldn't bag a team at half time and everything like that. And they came back and just ran all over us in the second half. I think we might have been 18-10 maybe at half time or something.
12-10.
12-10, was it? But,
did anyone from the other team hear him, do you think?
Well, the whole team did. Wayne Bennett stopped the team and made them listen to what Willie was saying.
They could hear it from the other dressing room.
No, outside the dressing room.
This is going on outside the dressing room.
Yeah, they hadn't gone in yet.
Oh,
they took their time getting in. So
okay. Oh, boy. We'll get Willie to respond to that in due course.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll get his side of the story.
He'll say he didn't do it, but no matter.
Well, that.
it was they came out and of course blew the Bulldogs away in the second half, and the team that played for Brisbane that day is, I don't know, arguably one of the best club sides you'll ever see. But that's debatable, but they're up there.
Yeah, well, I remember it was a pretty emotional semi-final series in that as well, because Bullfrog was really crook. And we went over to train at North Sydney Oval on the Friday morning before, the Thursday morning before we played Norths on the Friday night. And we all went and visited him in hospital and that, and it was really, really crook then. And
I remember going to a news conference where they brought him. He actually turned up at the Lees Club, I think, at one stage, or they got him. Either they got him out, or we went to a news conference.
We got him. We got him to the grand final. He was in a wheelchair in the grand final. But how we seen him, there was a lot of tears in the room and that. And he typical Bullfrog, and spoke unbelievable how proud he was, and inspirational speech, and sort of some of that was obviously sort of come across to us, and we wanted to do it for Bullfrog, but he was obviously a legend. That was a time. But I suppose the question, but probably many fans and everyone wants to ask, is like, Bar was part of the 95 one, and I was part of I was half a part of the 98 one, but I think it'd be a good debate to see. I know we got beaten 98 and 95. Bar's team won, but we come from, as I said, ninth and come through in 2 extra time games, and then you got Bar beating Broncos and Raiders and the St George. So I think they were 2 really, really good semi-final series.
Yeah.
The Para extra time, the Newcastle extra time, the Para extra time. That was just unbelievable footy, and I think both semi-final series are up there and etched in. Even with the 80s, the success of the 80s and how they went through there. But it was entertaining. It was wonderful to be a part of. Even though I didn't get to play the games against Newcastle, Para, and Brisbane, but to be part of it and be part of that team was amazing.
Now, as I said earlier, I had a conversation with Folksy some years back about 1999, and I was not surprised, but it was interesting to hear him say that he really thought 99 was an opportunity lost, and that side should have won the comp, losing to Melbourne in that
kick across field
penultimate game, and then of course he felt like that you guys could not have a problem in the grand final playing the Dragons, with great respect to them. But it came down to that game against Melbourne. I remember watching it from a hotel room in Hobart where I had other commitments, and it was just, I was so depressed. But tell us about that campaign in 1999.
Yeah, well, he's right what folks are saying, It was just, with again, we were disappointed with the loss of the grand final, and we wanted to come out and, make amends of that. But again, like, I still remember too, in the Melbourne one, Shifty Sherwin was sort of a young kid then, and if you go back and have a look, he scored an unbelievable try from 5'8", just beat him cold and scored to get us back into the game. And that was the biggest game. We thought we were probably home too, and then no fault of Sticky, but there was a kick go through and cross field, and Matt Guy picks it up and runs nearly the length of the field and knocks us off in the dying minutes, And then obviously Melbourne went over and beat Parrot, and then went on to beat St George. But that was certainly one that we let go. Yeah,
I remember a few players talking about their feelings as they saw Matty sprinting upfield for that try, and it was just it's one of those hard things to watch when you're a player. It hasn't been hard watching you though, mate. Thank you for joining us again on Unleashed. We're going to let you go because we've got a special guest coming in for our final segment. Angelina Teakaraanga Katoa is one of our Harvey Norman players, and she'll be coming in to join Baz because Baz has had a lot to do with her career and other women in this club, and there's a lot of exciting news relating to that. We'll deal with that after the break. Welcome back to Bulldogs Unleashed, brought to you by Reclaim the Game. And we have a very special occasion coming up in this match against the Cowboys this weekend. And don't forget, free rail travel to that game. So get involved in what will be a really fantastic family afternoon, because we have the Tarsha Gale Cup and Harvey Norman's Women's Premiership matches on prior to the men's game. First time that's ever happened. And the General Manager of Female Pathways in Junior League will explain a bit more about that. That's Barry Ward, by the way. And our other guest is one of our key players in the Harvey Norman Women's Premiership for the Bulldogs, is Angelina Teakaraanga Katoa. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're just happy with Tekka, though? Apparently that's your name.
Tekka works fine.
Good on you, Tekka. Thank you. Baz, as General Manager of Female Pathways in Junior League, by the way, is that a title you chose? Or
Yeah, I made it up.
You made it up. Fair enough.
Sound good?
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. Is he really that important?
Yeah, it sounds a bit too high. Yeah, just level it down a bit.
It really is a bit of a surprise, isn't it? Anyway, Tech, we'll ask you about your pathways in just a tick. But very quickly, Barry, this is an important round. I mean, it's a milestone for the women's game, particularly for our club.
Yeah, it is. We sort of come up with the idea with this. There is women in league round, but it's obviously played throughout the NRLW. So our girls in the Tasha Gale and Harvey Norman women don't get to sort of participate in that. The NRLW girls do, but our girls don't. So we thought we'd bring it in house and have a Bulldogs feel around it. So we embrace all the girls and the pathway. So it's a very exciting time, and also some of the girls have got an opportunity to play at a core stadium and before a first grade game, which is fantastic. So hopefully, as you said, all the crowd get out there and have a big build up, and it'll be an exciting day for them and a really exciting day for the club.
It's a big, expansive stadium, Tekka.
Yeah, very exciting.
Now, you've played in the NRLW. We'll
Yes,
get to that
I
in a minute. But have you spent much time at a core stadium?
Not too much. No, can't say that I have. Yeah, it is exciting for the girls to be playing out there this weekend.
We'll talk more about that in a minute because it's a very big game, both games actually, because our women are doing extremely well. I'll get to that. But firstly, your pathways. Where did you start playing rugby league and what got you into the game?
So I started at Milpera Colts when I was about 18. Funny story, I actually started playing tennis first. That was my main sport at the age of 4. And then my mum put me into a bit of rugby for extra fitness for tennis. And then I fell in love with rugby and then quit tennis, and then that led me to where I am today. Then went to Milpera to Tasha Gale Bulldogs. So I was in the Tasha Gale group for the under-19s. Started at the development for Bulldogs, and then went to Bears for the Harvey Norman because there wasn't a Bulldogs team for the Harvey Norman last year. And then that brings me to this year. There was a Harvey Norman for Bulldogs, and obviously, back to my roots, and that's where my heart is with the Dogs.
Well, we'd love to, of course, have you playing when there is an NRLW team as well. And I guess all those sort of things, scouting players and locking them in, will take place when we know that for sure. And we're hoping it's in a couple of years, and I'm sure you'll still be around then. But
hopefully.
Tell us about your pathway after you chose rugby league, and if there were any players that you were a fan of at any time, or was it kind of new to you then?
I was fairly new because all I knew back then was tennis. But then my brother did play rugby as well, so I was familiar with the game. He played for North Sydney Bears. So I was familiar a bit with the game, and then obviously watching the female space. Big idol of Holly Wheeler and Gail Borden. Obviously, Holly being a Jillaroo's player, so big idol for me, and Gail being an international player and playing for the Māori All-Stars. So those are two players that I look up to and obviously play for Bulldogs Harvey Norman. Yeah,
I was going to say, to get to play with those women is that would
special,
be a big deal.
A lot to learn from them, a lot to take in, and just their presence and their energy. A lot to take in.
It's an interesting choice that you made at that age because so different. I mean, my kids played junior tennis tournaments as well, and they also played team sports. So I realise what kind of decision that would have had to be because they're so different. But was it the team environment? Was it the physicality? Was it the game itself? What sort of
for sure, it was, tennis is a very lonely sport. So going into rugby, a lot of camaraderie, teammates. That's what I fell in love with, just the friendships that you do make. And tennis, obviously, you have doubles, but it's not the same.
No, it's not quite the same. Yeah. Still nowhere to hide, really.
Yeah, literally nowhere to hide.
Mind you, there's nowhere to hide in a rugby league team, to be fair.
No, there's not. But I understand where Tekka comes from. The dressing room banter and the dressing room camaraderie, it's something's really special, So when you look back on your playing career and that's some of your fondest moments of teams bonding together, and you spend so much time together. So you're basically living together for the girls now for 5 months, training day in and day out. But there's certainly some good times there.
It's a very different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
That whole idea of team bonding, it doesn't matter what level you're playing at, whether it's an international team or even a junior team. Yeah. There are still the same principles apply, aren't there?
Yeah, 100%. Even Milpera, I still have some lifelong friends that I made there. And for sure, I'm going to have some friendships that I'll have throughout my entire life for Bulldogs. And
Well, tell us about Tasha Gale Cup firstly, because what we want to sort of walk through how successful our two teams have been this season. Now, both competitions are approaching the climax because they run not concurrently with the men's competition or the NRLW for that matter, and there's a good reason for that because the Harvey Norman Women's folds into the NRLW sort of thing. So a lot of those players are already playing Harvey Norman Women's or the Queensland competition before they suit up for NRLW. But Tasha Gale Cup this year, and I know obviously you've been around long enough, Tekka, to have a handle on how strong that's been. I interviewed some of the girls that played last year at a presentation night, and I was so impressed with the commitment of young players to the game of rugby league.
Yeah, they are pretty committed. Trainings with 3 times a week, but then also working a full-time job. So the commitment is there, and the girls are definitely, keen to rip in and train, and trying to match that level of intensity that is required for game days. So it's pretty impressive from the girls.
How strong has Tasha Gale Cup become in recent years? We know it must because. And I must say, a lot of us as fans have wanted to see more women playing rugby league, that is more teams in the NRLW for a few years. But I tell you what, you're better off leaving them wanting more than actually having a competition flooded with players who aren't ready to play. And I think the NRL has managed, even though it's frustrated a lot of women players, I think, it has managed it very well. And the more teams we get, the better. But the standard has been absolutely fantastic in the plays we've seen.
I agree, Billy. As the game evolves, the numbers are growing. The talent's going to be better. So obviously when it first kicked off, that was a small playing pool. So you sort of got what you got. But the game now, the female game now, is just going gangbusters, and everyone's embracing it and they're getting behind it. And there's more and more girls that want to play it. And the more and more girls that want to play it, you're going to get more and more talent. And there's opportunity for the girls. They can come in at grassroots level, and then once you turn 14, you go into a females all female comp. So you're seeing it growing from the grassroots, and every year the quality of the player is going to get better and better. The standard is just going to keep going up and up. There's a lot of eyeballs on it now. You only had a look at the TV ratings last year of NRLW.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exciting. It's great to watch. There's not a lot of wrestle in it. The scrums are scrums. The girls know how to tackle. They're sponges, actually, the girls. They really want to learn, and that's the good thing. They're there and they want to learn. They listen, they ask questions, and they don't leave training confused, which we encourage the girls not to be. And they love it, and and it makes me proud to know that they want to play in a Bulldogs jersey. And as a club, we want to be competitive. We're not in it 50, 60%. We're in it 100%. And as you can see by the results at the moment this year.
Tekka, we've now seen a lot of big-time sports spend more money in developing their women's competition. So there is competition out there for athletes.
Yeah.
And what are you hearing from the women who play rugby league about why they like playing rugby league? Because, if you're an athletic player, you do have options like anyone else.
Yeah, 100%. I think more so what I was saying as well, just the friendships that you do make as well. Also, there's a lot of career pathways that you can make after, whether that's in the radio business or sponsorships, getting something like that. But there are other pathways in the game once you do make it up at that level.
Tasha Gale Cup team's undefeated, just quickly on that one. And they're, as I said, they're approaching the final round, so it's a big one.
Yeah, well, they got the Eels this week, so we're expecting to put up a big performance, but hopefully we can come away with the win. But yeah, and then from there they have a couple of weeks off, and then they're into a grand final qualifier. So it's pretty exciting times for them. We're really excited about this team. We've got a thought process here and a culture of semi-final football, and I've been around through the Bulldogs for a long, long time, and we grew up on semi-finals, and that's sort of the attitude and the approach that we want. That we want girls here having fun but working hard and achieving your goals, and one of them goals is semi-finals.
Your team's equal top. So
yes,
very competitive competition.
Yeah,
so you can't count a finals place yet, I suppose. But 11 rounds down, it's coming fast.
Yep, it is. We're equal first with I think 3 other teams.
Roosters.
Yep.
And Bears.
Yeah, so you
and
can
top 4 only goes through. So
Yeah.
it's tight.
Yeah, it is quite hard because you don't have a second chance to make up for it. So, yeah, you do have to perform on game day.
What's been the story of the season so far? Can you sort of capture what makes your team successful and how tough it's been?
I think just the chemistry between the girls. We're all pretty close, and just the connections we've made over pre-season. Yeah, it's nothing like any other team I've experienced. So just those connections that we've made over pre-season is pretty tight. Yeah.
As I said, you played NRLW, and how would you say, how close would you say Harvey Norman is now to the standard you've played at NRLW for the Roosters last year?
Oh, it's almost identical because we
Really?
do have quite a few NRLW players in Harvey Norman, let alone Bulldogs itself. So, yeah, it's not far off at all. Yeah.
That's really strong, though, isn't it, when you think about it? Because, well, obviously, reserve grade in the men or the Queensland and New South Wales Cups feeds into the NRL Premiership, but still there's quite a gap for a lot of players at that level. Stepping up to the top grade always has been.
Well, it's good that the girls, it's good they play for their development. So it just develops them even further and it readies them for NRLW. So you've got a few girls that haven't reached NRLW yet, but on the cusp. So a good competition like the NRLW at the moment, that will upskill them and harden them and get them ready for that pre-season NRLW and then ready for that season. And for the other girls coming back, all the big name girls coming back to strengthen that comp and have people coming through the gates wanting to watch them. So I think it's great for a community aspect as well.
Yeah, and look, the fact that they run separately and you don't have players committed to one level or another at the same time enables you to have that overlap. And so you've got inexperienced players playing with players like yourself who've been in the NRLW, and that enhances their development, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does. It does. And as I say, a couple of girls will go to different clubs, but it's not their fault. But when we grow as a game and every club embraces the pathway right through from your Lisa Fiola, which is the under-17s, all the way through. I want another story for a female Bulldog player to be like a Josh Reynolds or a Terry Lamb to play junior football here and go all the way and fulfil their dream of NRLW. And I think we can achieve that, and it'd be great, because at our club it doesn't matter male or female. If you've got a Bulldogs jersey on, you're part of the family. So
tell us about your game this weekend, Tekka. How are you going to win it?
I think we've got to have our punch through the middle and then play some shape off the back of that with our backs. So, yeah, just a simple game plan. Try to have that ball security and not try to overcomplicate it on the weekend. Yeah.
How do you see your role on the team?
Oh, well, I'm actually personally not playing. I'm just going through some rehab runs at the moment because I injured myself at the Bears game. Ruptured a ligament, so hopefully next week we'll be good to go.
And look, she's very humble, of course. How do you see her role on the team?
She's a massive influence on the team. What I like about Tekka too is the work she does off the field with the training and looks after rehab and that. Tough as nails. So huge punch up the middle. Great leg speed. Good with the football in the hand. Creates opportunities every time Tekka runs. So she runs hard and she makes them want to tackle her. So and I think for her, playing injured against North Sydney just typifies how tough she is. By half time she was busted and played all the second half as well. And that's the type of people we want. And that's the type of people we've got at our club. And we make it proud that you got girls like that doing things for the jersey and their teammates.
How many weeks?
4 to 6. Yeah.
Well, that's disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're speed tracking it because our rehab's going quite good. So hopefully we can short it down to just the 4.
One thing you would have noticed, I guess, playing team sports at this level particularly is the things you do when you are not playing.
Yeah.
It's still very much an important part of the team, isn't it?
Getting itchy feet, obviously, watching some of the games, but yeah, just to still be in the environment, get amongst the girls, encourage them during training. Yeah, just as important.
Now, you're suiting up for the Dragons in the NRLW. You went from the Roosters. Tell us all about that.
Yep. So last year, my first NRLW season was with the Roosters. And, due to coaching staff, roster, I see myself being more valuable at the Dragons. So, yeah, that's where I'm headed to this season.
And we've got Sharks, Tigers, North Queensland, Canberra coming in. This is really now shaping up. I mean, it was so elite when they only had the 4 teams in the NRLW. The quality, it's like watching State of Origin every week, or an international game for that matter, every week. But even now with the expanded teams, they've done it so well. We're going to see another terrific high-quality competition in NRLW.
Yeah, no, it is exciting with the 4 new teams. It just shows how much the women's space is growing and how much people are actually interested in the women's game. So, yeah, it's a very big step forward for the women's game.
And I think, Barry, the other thing too about the NRLW and Harvey Norman and Tasha Gale is that we're actually seeing players coming from rugby union, and we're seeing touch footy players. We're seeing, and when I say rugby union, there are 7s rugby players and the 15-a-side players as well. A lot of them are gravitating towards rugby league in recent times.
Yeah, as I said, you've got to sort of think outside the square a little bit because, as you say, with the player pool. But if I break it down, we're in our Lisa Fiola, we've got a couple of Oztag girls that have come over and now playing tackle for the first time and handle it really well. We've got a fair few New Zealanders. We've gone over and scouted a few New Zealand girls over there and brought them over. So they're very talented. You know, they've grown up with union all their life and do rugby league as a second sport, and they come over and handle it straight away. And they've just got a huge player talent pool over there. And as you said, it's just going to grow. Like in the River Arena, it'll grow. It'll grow in North Queensland. It's growing in Brisbane. It's growing everywhere. So we've even got one of the girls from Western Australia. She's over here playing. So we search far and wide for them. And we've currently at the moment also, as well as our development here, we've got satellite developments at Greater Northern and North Coast and Toowoomba, and then we fly to New Zealand. So, and them squads are growing and growing every year. So it's
I heard a couple of years ago, because I'm from a small country town on the south coast of New South Wales, and I heard a couple of years ago that Oztag for women was absolutely going crazy in country areas. Is that still true? Is that a
Yeah, they just had a huge tournament I went up to a couple of weeks ago. For all the Oztag up at Coffs Harbour, so they have a massive one up there that Bill Harrigan runs. So they're huge and they come from everywhere.
Now, Teki, you're from Tonga, Cook Islands background, I understand. For the Pacific Nations women, is rugby league also becoming a big thing? I know rugby would be very competitive, of course. But
it is back in New Zealand, but again, just being pretty new to rugby, I wouldn't have too much expertise on that area. Yeah.
It is. I would imagine it's becoming more popular in other nations around the Pacific as well as just New Zealand, Australia.
Oh, absolutely, it is. Yeah, I haven't got to Fiji yet, but I might have to get over there. But
it's a great place for a holiday. It's a good excuse to go.
Yeah, tax write-off. No, but it is growing, and as I said, it's they got a lot of infrastructure in New Zealand with their union, and it's hard to get them out because everyone wants to be a black fern or an all black, and that's what they want to do.
It's a strong calling, yeah.
Strong calling. It's a great brand. So, but a lot of them play league over there, and at the moment we've got the benefit of not much of a pathway for them there. So we want to bring them over here and give them and try to help them fulfil their dream.
And I guess your ambitions, Tecker. I mean, one of the things you talked about earlier is not only your teammates but the pathways that rugby league can give you. What are your ambitions?
Obviously to make an international side, whether that be for Australia or for Tonga. That's always been one of my goals once I picked up for football. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to achieve by the end of my career, hopefully.
And do it full time?
Yep, that is the goal. So hopefully quit my warehousing job to pick up football, full time.
I guess you did touch on it earlier, but it is, people must understand how difficult it is to balance a full-time job. I mean, we're going back to your early playing days in the men's, for example, having to do that, and it's not easy because the demands on training these days compared to the old days are quite incredible. It's far more intense. Yeah,
it is hard. Obviously, me and one of the other girls, Ruben Cherrington, we both work at a warehouse out at Campbelltown, and it is early starts, 5:30 starts. It's pretty hard on the body, warehousing, pick packing. But, it's a sacrifice that we do make because we love the game and we obviously, want to succeed.
I hope your bosses are looking after you.
Oh, I hope he's watching.
I wanted to mention too that you're launching a couple of things this weekend, but there's a foundation launch and it's a pretty pivotal weekend in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, just going back, we've also in all our development programs, we're just launching our Pups Elite Scholarship program. So That is around 20 of the girls across New South Wales, Queensland and New Zealand we've identified who are a high-level skilled athlete. Vari Group, the company's come on board. So they're a wonderful company that does traffic management and various other things. And what the good thing about Vari is that they've backed us for funding. Now, everyone needs funding, but they've backed us and they want to be long-term with us. And the biggest thing for us as well is it's not only on the field where we want to develop off the field. So we're working with Vari Group in the way of upskilling the girls. So they got a career and a job after they finish playing. So when you come to the Bulldogs, we want you, no matter if not everyone can make it. But we want people to come in and be better people when they leave than when they have, and they've got some skill set. So they've got a future after they go the footy. So that's some exciting times around the elite scholarship program, and also we've just built a relationship with the Australian Sports Foundation. Which is a funding model where people can donate and fund to our female program as well. So you become what you call a DGR status. And it's a charitable status. So when you donate through there and you fund it through our female program. So the more funding we get, obviously, and the more sponsorship, the better we become, and the more development programs and pathways and skill based and the more professionalism we can put into the girls.
Now, I can't finish this segment up without mentioning a bloke we all know very well who only recently became head coach of the Bulldogs, Harvey Norman women's side, Craig Sandercock, who's been an elite coach, an elite head coach at the top of the game. Now, feel free to be critical of him because we all know him well and love him, but how's that going, Teka?
Oh, no, he's a good coach. Good coach, sorry. It's been a pretty smooth transition. He has a lot of experience, and I think the girls have a lot to take from him and learn from him. So, they're pretty all hands-on when he's out there coaching us on the paddock. So,
we should pay tribute to Luke Goodwin too, by the way, who's been on this show but was formerly in that role but has had to move on to other areas within the club.
Yeah, he done a good job early on setting up and, set the girls up and put the team together, the squad together. So he's quite passionate about the girls, so he's done good. But on Sandy, I think the girls, the great thing is you got to realise he's had over 600 NRL games of experience, so which is a huge resume. Sometimes you have to pull him back because he's in that NRL environment, and the girls are, but he just wants to get them to learn. He just wants to give them as much information he possibly can to improve them as footballers, which is great. So he's very thorough. He knows the game, as Teka said. And I think the girls will really thrive from having Sandy there, and he's probably, or if not one of the best coaches in the game at the moment for the female space.
I know I'm putting you on the spot a bit, Teka, and I did touch on it earlier, but from all the building that you've seen going on at this club, I mean, hopefully very soon, as soon as it's possible, we'll get an NRLW side. Would you like to come back and play for the Dogs at that level?
That's where my heart is, and that's the goal.
Contract.
If it's there, mate, I'll sign it.
We don't want to upset the Dragons. We really appreciate that, and we didn't want to put you on the spot. We're only kidding, Dragons fans.
Yeah,
but
just jokes.
I don't know if any Dragons fans will be watching this anyway, to be honest. But anyway, it's we wish you all the best of luck for NRLW, and well done on the work you've done. I know we've had a lot of fun on this show bagging Terry Lamb, but we actually know that you do actually do something at this club.
Yes, we do. Yeah,
other than make fun of Terry Lamb.
Teka should be able to agree to that. But
hang on, one thing we've got to work out, what does actually Terry Lamb do? He is Minister for having a good time.
Yeah, he's a minister for
We'll leave that there. We don't want to put Teka on the spot.
He's a minister for recreation.
Minister for recreation. I like that. There's a good gig
That's a
you
good
can look
title,
forward to.
yeah.
At the end of your playing career, Teka, that's something you should get your hands on.
Look us up, Barry.
Barry, thank you so much. Barry Ward, Angelina Teakaraanga Katoa, you're a champion, and good luck on the weekend, and of course with the Dragons later in the season. But we'll get it back on the show anyway before all that happens. Thank you for watching Bulldogs Unleashed. We'll do it all again next week.